All right, so the Reading Nook Magic podcast is here, and we have a special new guest. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Oh, hi. I am Dan Bonser. I am the author of the Ballad of the Emerald Bard series.
Tell us a little bit about your genre and about your books. Anything you want to share?
Well, it's fantasy, technically sword and sorcery. It's one of the fun ones that, doesn't really fit neatly into a box. So it tends to
Those are
be,
our favorite.
yeah, it's incredibly hard to describe. And there is a bard who is a 100 plus year old elf who she travels around the countryside singing songs and going on adventures. That's the first layer. The second layer is since she's over 100 and a woman, she has trauma and she has the PTSDs that come with it, even so far after the fact. I get into those kind of issues. I get into that. I remember at one point I said that it's like it doesn't matter that it's like she's an elf. She's the most human character I've ever written.
How do you get into the psyche of a female and her trauma?
That's always a fun question. One, I got really lucky in the fact that I was raised with women protagonists in a lot of things that I did. I always empathize with them better because the guy comes in and fixes everything, and that's what always happens. But the girl, she has a different journey. It's always a more human journey. It's more interesting. And then once I grew up, there was this thing about how women aren't supposed to be the heroes and aren't supposed to fix everything. And I'm like, why? um, and so I have the mindset of women are powerful and amazing and should be ruling the world right now. And yeah, and so I come off as like I'm a really hardcore feminist. Like even my most recent music is like hardcore feminist metal, um, and the sheer fact
So
that
happy right now.
yeah, it's really funny. And then the sheer fact that every woman I've ever met has trauma. A lot of it is a very specific trauma, and it's horrible and disgusting, and I hate it. But it's part of the process. And so, one of the things I wanted to do when I wrote the character, when I even created the character, was have that as a layer to bring eyes on it. And then it just like after that, it just kind of happens naturally. And so, yeah, I have my book series. It's really funny because like I would say 80% of the cast is women. And she's even technically a sapphic protagonist.
Okay.
Um, yeah, and so it goes along those lines. I do know that I'm able to. I've had some justification, or that's not the right word. I'm trying to think of validation,
Mm.
um, where I remember I had somebody posted a bad comment that was like, "Oh, it doesn't get women," and right in the heart. I'm like, "Oh, how could that be?" All these women read.
So hard.
Yeah, I've gotten such great feedback. That same day, I read that comment. One of my friends who's reading book two, she hit a point to where the protagonist and her love interest, it's like a prequel. I don't know, you don't want too much setup for it, but they try on dresses. One is a girl that is raised by wolves, technically, and the other one is she's a bard. She's traveled the world. She's done all this stuff, but she's had the trauma. So they both try on dresses. The wolf girl puts on a dress and goes, "Hey, I actually look kind of cute. This is amazing." And the other girl's like, "Nope, this is too much skin. This ain't happening." um, and she was able to. And this woman messaged me and said that you captured like every woman's experience putting on a dress from both sides.
Well,
And
it's interesting.
yeah,
This is personal, but it just made me think of my daughter, like kind of going through puberty and like not really thinking about that prior in the innocence of a child and like just wanting to look cute. And then all of a sudden seeing a shift in like understanding what she's wearing and like being it's kind of sad, actually, like being more aware in a self conscious way, but also in I don't want to use the word modesty, but that's the only thing I can think of right now, like in a more more modest way. Like, no, I can't do this because of what happened. Like the million reasons.
All of it in a nutshell. I mean, it's one of those things. It's like I don't know. It's you can't say you love women as a man and sound not weird, but in the end, it's like that. That's what it is. I really do just want to capture that experience, and then somehow I did along the way. And just writing a real character, I never know what's going to fall out. And so I didn't even think of that scene whenever I wrote it. I was just like, oh, this is like things I've seen before, and this is how this character would act. This is how this character would act. And then her messaging me and going, you captured something here that I've never seen captured. And I'm like, what? How'd I do that? Kind of thing. Yeah.
Yes.
I also, one thing you just said reminded me of, I don't know what award ceremony it is, but there's a clip of Reese Witherspoon up on stage, and she talks
Yeah.
about how in every script she gets to the point where it's like a trauma, and the woman looks at a man and goes, "What
do we
should
do
we
now?"
do?"
Yep.
And she's like, "In what realm of all reality has that ever happened? Where you're in trauma and a woman looks to a man and says, well, what do we do now?" Or
Yeah.
whatever it is.
Especially
Never.
especially like a mother or anything. It's like that just doesn't happen. It's like
It
you turn
doesn't.
to mom whenever when everything goes wrong. You turn to mom. Yeah.
It's true. Maybe dad leads the way through something, but mom's the one who says we're gonna go this or whatever. Yeah, it was just that's what made me think of. It's really nice to be appreciated as a woman. Thank you.
It's one of those things. It's like, as a cis white man, I always worry that someday, somebody's going to try to call me out on it and go, "Oh, you're a cis white man. You can't do this." And I'm like, but I said I'm an ally. A feminist and all this other stuff, and I am what I am.
You don't need to be ashamed of what you are either.
Yeah, it's just wild. Yeah.
You know.
How I approach writing women, I don't know. I love George R. R. Martin's thing that boasts. It's like, how do you write such strong, independent women? It's like, well, I believe they're people.
So, okay, that's how, I love that explanation. That was wonderful and super well thought out. What about the genre in particular? Like, is this just because this is what you like, so this is where you chose to tell your story, or was there more of, but another reason?
Man, it's one of those things. It's like, I've always loved fantasy, but I read everything as long as there's characters involved. In fact, I actually remember characters more than I do titles of the books I've read. And so that's the basis of it. The other basis of it is, a long time ago I was playing a video game, and it was an MMO. Okay, massive multiplayer online role playing game. You make a character, and I was always looking for role play. I've always heard that it was a thing, and I've got into many times, and I've got to do a couple things, but it wasn't amazing. And so I picked the role playing server, and I just happened to get into a group of solid role players. They would get on, like, so the best way to say it is, in that game, which is still going on now, which is mind blowing. People have set up bars in the game where 3 hours a night, every night of the week, a different bar opens, and people show up, and for the entire time they're playing that character. They're chatting in the character's name. They're being that character in the space. And when I did it, they were like, I got into a guild that was building their own bar, and they were building the stage, and I'm like, hey, that's neat. Do people use that? And they're like, yeah, somebody will go up there and they'll copy and paste in a song, poem every now and then. Most of the time they were parodies, like, if you Weird Al'd the song, and shoehorned it into the lore. And I was like, hey, that's neat, but does anybody do full sets? No. And so that week I'll remember the number forever because it's the number of weeks in a year, but I wrote 52 poems in a week. And because I'm a poet, I have poetry published here and there on the internet. But I did it, and I was like, hey, this is great. And then I got up there, and it was, you copy and paste in the stanza, and then you type /em and say what the character's doing in between the stanzas. Within a month, my character was house barred in 3 different places, so playing regularly at 3 different places, and then going to 6 other different places. And after that, people started having favorite songs. They were doing requests. They'd get up and sing along. I was like, I'm playing a rock star, and I was like, how did this just happen?
That's
Um,
so
and so I had a basis to the character, which I loved, and I got into role playing scenarios and talked to people and got into stuff. I never got pulled into the crazy background of it because there was a lot of people that had like hardcore role plays and went arcs and stories that melded with the lore of the game, and people got way into it. But somewhere along the way, I was just like, it was time for me to leave, and I'm like, well, I'm leaving the game, but I love this character, and so a lot of the characters' abilities and that kind of stuff are still based in the mechanics of the game,
mm.
but I had to pull the game lore out of that and create a whole new world, and so it was a fantasy world. So that's how it all came out.
How it
It,
all came out.
yeah, it
So it's
long.
mostly video. I mean, you've brought up video games a couple of times, so that's obviously a huge influence for you. What other games? I don't know anything about gaming, but what other games? Like, what game did you grow up playing that you just referenced earlier?
Well, so the original one, so Fantasy Star is still a thing for somehow, but on the Sega Master System there was Fantasy Star One, and there was the main character was a girl named Alice, which was ALIS, and the whole story is based on that. And that was my first role playing game, which was a female lead character. And then of course you get like other ones like Metroid has like a famous female lead character. Um, and it was wild. So yeah, I grew up said being from the time that I am, I grew up. I had an Atari, I had a Commodore 64, so I grew up with technology. So I grew up with video games, and so nowadays I don't play as much as I would like to because so many great stories out there. I love to get into a video game and experience a story, and there's not many that you can do that with nowadays. Because I mean, yeah, you can play Minecraft all day long. You're not going to get a story. You might build something cool, but
I keep
uh,
thinking of Zelda. That's what
yeah,
this is making me think of.
Zelda's a great example. I mean, you got it's named after the female protagonist, even though Link is the main character. It's really
Right.
funny how that dynamic works. And I didn't have Nintendo, but I played them because my friends did. So yeah, I know how the Zelda lore went, and I'm looking forward to the. Is it a movie or a TV show? I can't remember. They're making one.
I'm
Just
not sure.
it like just finished filming, and so there's a lot in the gaming community that are really looking forward to it.
That sounds fun. I mean, I didn't ever play. I think I played Zelda when I was younger, but I played a lot of the games that like included Link, yeah, as the
Hmm.
character, like,
Yeah.
and I would always choose him because he was cool.
Yeah, he's a great character, especially. But the problem is if you get too far into that lore, it gets really weird because they're one of the most famous games of all time, Ocarina of Time, because it involved time, actually split the timeline, and now there's actually a fork in the timeline, and some games relate to one fork, and other games relate to the other fork. It gets the lore of it gets really confusing really fast. The main reason why I bring it up is because I can relate it back to my book. I do have a time traveler that exists in the book
Cool.
or in the series. It's actually so the main character being Dia had three three love interests. I put quote marks because she kind of fell in love with a guy that caused the trauma. And then after that, she had what she calls her first love, which was a time traveling mage. Um, and then her second love is the wolf girl. So yeah, and so yeah, that having a time traveler in the plot, my spreadsheet
I was
of
gonna say
the
how
of the timeline.
okay, I actually have a really like a question about this
Yeah,
specifically. So like, yeah, time travel. So okay, so then if you know that they're time traveling and like okay, the audience or the reader doesn't, that's fine. But then you have to account for the differences in the future that they made to the present. That is so complicated.
it is. I have my spreadsheet goes like one original timeline, and then when they traveled back and fixed it because everything went wrong, in the end there's a split timeline where things happen, and then it split again, and then it split again. So there's 4 different timelines that I keep track of. And then of course you have to have the rules, like if they can go back in time and change things, then how do you keep them from doing that? And so there's actually rules that the characters don't understand, that they're not able to jump back before certain points, which is kind of done off of the Doctor Who's fixed points in time. There's 2 time travelers. There's a bad one and a good one. And so once something happens and they don't know what that is, they can't jump back before it. So the past becomes set, and they're getting funneled towards something. Yeah, trust
Wait,
me.
the past is
Yeah,
okay.
the past gets
You
set.
can only go into the future.
They can go into the future. They can go into the past up until a certain point, and that point keeps moving.
Moving as okay, as so a
Yeah.
certain amount of time passes, it's
Mhm.
solidified and it's permanent. So you're not
Yeah.
gonna like have an Outlander experience where she goes back
Yeah.
to the 1700s.
Exactly.
That's
It
cool.
gets wonky. It really does. There was a
That's
point, because I said my series is 6 books. First book is out. Second book out. It came out May 19th. There was a point in the story, because the books 3 and 4 are currently written. I'm revising book 2 or book 3. Revising book 3, and there came a point where after I wrote book 4, I'm like, I'm fine with it. It's rough draft. Not gonna leave it alone. Like months later, I was like, oh wait, I broke something. And so I had to go in and put in notes around the section going, I have to fix this because it broke my own rule, and I have to go in and fix it. But it was good that it did, because it changed the plot really, really well. Um,
okay.
yeah, and
And
helped
you have it
the
all plotted out, like through book
yeah,
6. Like you
yeah.
know exactly where everyone's going. There's nothing.
Yeah, it's also one of those things. It's like I can say that now. A month ago, I couldn't. There was a couple of loose ends that I didn't know what to do with. Um, but said once I fixed that one thing and started thinking about the time travel aspect and figuring out what to do with them, yeah, I came up with an ending that's heartbreaking and perfect.
Heartbreaking and perfect.
Hmm.
We're in.
I'm working on something right now, and my partner in it is always like, "We are just so cruel to our characters. Like, we just love
Yeah,
torturing them." It's like
yeah,
I feel really bad about it sometimes. Like, ugh, why am I doing this to this person?
yeah. But in the end, it's like I said, people love the pain. People love they love a character they can relate to. Yeah, I know the feeling, because I said I'm still currently revising book 3. Book 3, the main character's diary is found and is being read by her daughter, which is traumatic enough. But it goes through the trauma that happened in detail, and it's rough. It's like every day I'm just crying, trying not to deal with it and making sure that it's right. It's rough.
Do you like pull from real people's stories? Or are you just creating it all? Is there people in your life that have inspired some of the characters and situations?
Oh yeah, definitely. Some of the characters were even either partially based off some of the old role playing group, or I actually got permission to use their likenesses. Um, Beyond that, yeah, there's a lot of. I mean, to make it real, you just pull from experience while trying to make it as fantastical as possible, because that's the other fun part. Is yeah, being a fantasy, I can do anything I want. Um, and so grounding it in some form of realism while you have people that can cast magic is a lot of fun.
That's really, really cool. Well, I love like so everyone's process is so different too. Like, we've interviewed authors that kind of seem like they're just flying by the seat of their pants. Like I hear a lot of I can't wait to see where the characters are going and
Yeah.
I can't wait to see it unfold, but it sounds like your process is a little bit more planned. For, would you
Originally,
say?
it wasn't. So, finished the video game, took the character out, and I was making serial web fiction. I'm like, oh, I'm just going to write characters. I'm just going to write this person, and it's going to be like, what was the old movie or the old TV show called Kung Fu? Ages me, but whatever.
I don't know. But
Yeah, it old show stars. I think it was David Carradine, and he's trained in kung fu, and he just travels around from town to town fixing things. It's set in modern thing, and that's all it was. It was originally created by Bruce Lee. There's actually a big thing about how the studios, he pitched it to the studios and they were like, whatever. And then some studio exec went, you know what? That, but with a white dude. And yeah, so there's like in the Bruce Lee biopic, there's a scene of him watching that TV but that was the original idea because I kind of grew up on it. But the idea of like, yeah, a traveling bard going from town to town doing stuff, 6 stories in, I realized that I had started making overarching plots that was like, if I don't stop right now and start fixing these, I'm just going to keep creating them, and I'm never going to finish them. And so I did. I sat back and went, keeping these short stories as they are. If I make, I think it was 20 short stories, I can fix all of them. And so the books are actually written with 3 stories in them. So every book is designed to have 3 short stories that are all interconnected in some way, and they're meant to be read in the order that I'm putting them out. Some of them actually are prequels. But I set it down and then went, you know what? The character needs a better introduction. So I wrote a new story, especially this is like something that should be on its own thing, but the first story that you read in the book. So I was putting them on a blog, and I had to censor them and keep them all PG and all this other stuff. And I'm like, you know what? No, if I'm going to take these off, put them into a novel, I'm going to push myself. I'm going to make it not censored. I'm going to write the character in a moral situation that shows you exactly who she is. And so looking at it all, I was like, okay, 21 makes 7 books. And then about a year ago, I stepped back and went, 3 of those stories are prequels that don't add to the plot. So those are going to be novellas that I'll eventually collect into its own book. Yeah, so through all that stuff, I go back to the first story and write me the first story from the ground up. And I remember I hit a point. It has a that scene. And I pushed beyond my comfort zone, wrote a story that was uncomfortable on purpose. And it has a level of spice that is not easily on the pepper scale. But when people read it, they're like, I didn't expect that amount of spice. And so there's a base level of eroticism that's in it. And it's meant to be uncomfortable. There's a woman that's coming on to her way too hard. And then it goes into that scene, which is a fight scene that's, I don't know. Some people have read it and closed the book and went, I'm going to have to come back to this later. But I remember I went to my wife and went, like, seriously, I went too far. This is not good. I cannot write this. This is way too far. And she was like, no, this is so good. Keep going. And I'm like, what? And so now people come up to me and they're like, I love that scene. And I'm like, you're a weirdo.
You write it and you still will label people who like it as a weirdo.
Well,
that's what I would
so yeah, I
You
mean, it
would
gets into,
actually.
it went off the rails. And so it's wild. And
So
so people,
funny. So
but
interesting.
yeah, it's like, there's no easy way to describe it. I can say one word that will make you go, oh, okay. And people that read it, after they read it, I say that word and they're like, oh, yeah, okay. But I mean, it involves spiders and demons and other stuff. It's just, and I'm arachnophobic. So,
I was just gonna say I am disgustingly arachnophobic. Like it's embarrassing. Like I'll be with clients at my real job and like completely and humiliate myself, and they look at me like, "Are you serious? What are you, a teenage girl?" And I'm like, "I don't know what to tell you, but I'm leaving this house right now."
yeah, I'm, I'm the,
Before I set it on fire.
yeah, I'm,
I
I'm
don't.
the, I'm the same way. It's like somebody says there's a spider and I'm gone. I'm just
Yeah,
out. Yeah, I said I'm 6'3". Everybody expects me to be. Oh, I'm going to go fix. No, I'm out. He's just like your spy. Nope, it's done.
So, okay, well, have you always known that one thing I always am curious as to is like if you always knew you wanted to be a writer, is this like your dream? Is this something that like, kind of like your journey into being an author? And I mean, you told us about your inspiration and all of that, but like the action of doing it itself. Like you could have a story in your head and not want to write it.
I wrote from a very early age. Like I don't I still remember something about like a purple four-armed alien and my mom laughing because she would always collect the stories and there was like I think I remember there was like I had a horse in space and it had like to have a helmet and stuff and it was just like I remember those little memories um, somewhere before junior high. So yeah, I've always wanted to be a writer even before I could really get into reading. And then once I got into reading and people were able to really touch me with their stories, I was all in. And so it was always about, what am I going to write? And then there's a point in history. Everybody that hears the story wants a novel. I started writing a novel once, and it was about a girl who, she has to ends up sacrificing herself to save the entire world, but the ceremony itself was disrupted, and so she's become this hardened mercenary that's just like, screw everyone. I'm going to live my own life. I'm immortal and I don't care. And she has to go from that to going back to the ceremony and sacrificing herself to save the world, or everybody's going to be gone. And that became part of the history to this series. Um, just little things like that. I attempted a novel 3 times before I sat down and wrote this first one. And the first one is honestly it came out just a little over 10 years ago now. And then said life happened, and then now I'm back to getting book 2, book 3, book 4, book 5, book 6. I want them done. I've taken too long away, but life had its
And
little.
insane amounts of poetry while you're at it.
Oh yeah, no, insane amounts of poetry. Yeah.
Well, it's alive and breathing again, right? I feel your energy about it, and I have no doubt that you're gonna pump them all out. And
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's alive and breathing. Said my wife absolutely, even though she doesn't like fantasy, she believes in the book because she will love scenes enough that she'll be like, this is amazing, you need to do this. And so she's highly supportive. It doesn't help that she's also a writer. Um, it's been a little while since she's done anything, but she actually trad published 2 books, which is one of the reasons why I married her, because I was like, oh my gosh, she's creative too. I got to jump into this. And next thing you know, I'm like, yeah, moving along with my own books.
That's so
so
cool.
funny. Some people just really cannot get past the fantasy aspect either. I was just laughing at that because I was thinking of our friend that owns a bookstore, and she owns a bookstore that's a fiction bookstore, and she's like, I forced myself to read fantasy
Mhm.
once a month because she
Yeah.
really does not like it, and it's just so funny because I just love it, But obviously to each their own. But I always like have a little chuckle
It's
at.
funny. I
Yeah.
feel like I need the fantasy in the fiction now. Not like full blown fantasy always, but like if it's missing, I'm like, I notice it.
Yeah, like
I'm
it
like
needs a little touch of something.
a little
Yeah.
touch of magic.
It's also, not
I
only
don't
the
mean
magic.
spice. I mean like a sprinkle of something
The
No,
magic.
magic. That's
yeah,
all I want is
totally.
the
I mean,
magic.
it's the thing. It's like said my character being the bard, her music is magic, so you get that kind of fun stuff. But it's also a friend of mine, one of the indie authors I've gotten to know. She says it best, which was, you write the story that you wish was a real thing, and her story was like based in it's like what she describes as a queer normative world because she wishes that's what this world was. And I went and I realized that I've done the same because that's the world I want to be. And then on top of that was also there's exceptions because it's got to be for the plot, but all the gods have been kicked off the world. and their religion is practically outlawed, and they're living in a near utopia. I mean, bad people show up every now and then and do bad people things, but there's not organizations that are ruling the world that are based in religion anymore. And so you get that,
That makes a difference, doesn't it?
yeah. So you get the utopia. You do get some speciesism, because I do make a, I'm not, Tolkien should have had elves and dwarves and everything be different species. But so there are speciesisms, but they're not so ingrained that, it's just this ugly thing that you get to see every day.
Okay, sidebar. Orcs are elves?
That was Tolkien. Yeah, Tolkien had them all related to each other.
I was thinking that I just started watching Rings of Power. I've not read it. I wasn't a
Mhm.
reader when they came out. I watched it as a kid, so I have them all on my bookshelf and one day would love to say I read it, but I just
Yeah.
watched the films. And I started watching Rings of Power and I was like, wait, all right. Morgoth, Sauron is his wizard, that's his most devoted, but like why are the orcs all ugly? Like what? Like do you follow Sauron and then you just become ugly? Like I don't understand.
There's there are people that have tried to do the genetic linkages of it all, because you have to remember that in Tolkien's own speech, the elves, dwarves, orcs, all of them are races of man. So they're so that's the reason why they're called races. They're all human somehow, and all somehow so diverse that they're different. So there's people that argue the species version of it, the versus the races version of it, and how that gets in there. And then knowing that it gets ugly. Like goblins are, if you look at it in the right light, goblins are caricatures of Jews, and that came from before Tolkien. And so it gets problematic. It starts really ramping up problematic, and then of course you got it's even in the movies where the bad people, the bad humans ride elephants and are olive skinned.
Yeah. That yeah. No, I mean that's pretty obvious. I'm like,
Yeah, so but in the end it's more extreme. And so yeah, I there's a lot of people that are, they'll argue the validity of Tolkien by saying that they're different species. They're completely different. I mean, elves live forever and have completely different aspects than a dwarf, but they're called races of man.
yeah, I didn't even know that part. That just made me more confused. I mean, that's not your fault. I'm like, what do you mean?
So you have to remember that Tolkien came from he wrote it from the aspect of two things. One, he loved language. He was a linguist. And so he wanted to play around with languages. So he was like, "Oh, I'm going to make a pretty language. I'm going to make a dwarf language. I'm going to make an orc language." And then the other one was he wanted an alternate history that filled in the Dark Ages.
Hmm. Well, regardless, it's still very enjoyable.
It is. Yeah, and said yeah, it's wild whenever that happens, but yeah, you play with it and it comes up fun. And so uh sidebar to the sidebar is like I'm a biologist. So whenever I got into it, I actually went in with the full species aspect. And there are half elves, half orcs, half dwarf, half giant, and they're actually hybrid species, which are in this world like you get a horse, yeah, a horse and a donkey make a mule, and the mule is infertile. You get tiger or lion, you get liger. Yeah, and so I took that as the examples of how half species work. Yeah.
Is there anything that we haven't covered that your potential readers should know about why they should pick up your book series?
Whew, that's always a tough one. It's good. No, the
Love it.
Sold.
yeah, no, it's unique. It's fantastical. It gets into lots of different things. Everybody that reads it, the people that do love it, they always pick out something new, which is fascinating to a writer. Like I can't tell you how many people are like, "Oh, I like this back character," and I'm like, "Why?" And then they're like, "They better show up again." I'm like, "Oh." So that
Maybe in book 7.
yeah, and so you get that fun stuff. I write character emphasis first, so I want people to enjoy the character. The book one is very light on world building. Book two is a lot heavier, but it's not so world building heavy that you can't enjoy the characters. It's all about meeting the characters and having fun, learning who they are, and connecting with them. And
Well, I think you said
yeah,
that before. I actually wrote it
yeah,
down. I remember the characters more than I remember a book title.
Mhm.
And it's so true. I've never heard anybody articulate it like that, but it's true. And like, of course, that's going to be your focus, right? And they're so important because they become a part of us.
exactly. And then they're all unique. Someone asked me how I write such different characters, and I had no idea how to answer it other than it's like you start with the basis of who they are, which is almost a caricature, and you just build. They went to school somewhere. They got into the plot somewhere, and then whenever you sit back and you have a character that has 100 years of life, and you start filling that in, you get characters that are as believable, if not more so, than any ones that I've ever read. And because I said they're able to just mention something in their past where people have to go, well, what was that? And I'm like, oh, okay, well. And the next thing you know, 20 minutes later, you're like, you filled out some kind of crazy story that you would never really planning on writing. It's just something in her past.
Sounds like you really enjoy it and you're very passionate about it.
Oh yeah,
And thank
more.
you for being a feminist.
I do try. I do. Yeah, it's one of those things. It's like I'm very proud of it. I live in a place where it's not a great thing to be,
Are you in
but
Texas?
I originally I'm
Not
currently
that you can
living.
tell me, but you have. I hear a Texas in your
Yeah,
voice.
some people hear it. I lived in North Carolina for 11 years, and now I'm in Oklahoma, so not far from Texas. Uh, so yeah, but yeah, I live in a very conservative place, and like I know that I'm writing stories that would get my stuff banned, so don't care.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
Get your. But like if we've talked to this woman,
Saudi Arabia, I think.
Oh yeah.
um, and all her books are banned where she is.
Mm-hmm.
And she's from here. Actually, I think she's from North Carolina. She's like, it's like a life goal. I mean, I'm not banned everywhere. People could read my books, but I'm definitely banned. Kind of feel like a badass.
No, if people get into the books, they'll yeah, it'll totally get banned because it said the first book has the what is it, atypical spice scene. There was another word I used to use. It has the atypical spice. It has atypical spice scene. Traditional. There you go. Non-traditional spice until you hit the traditional spice scene. Then there's not really any more spice in it. And some people were overwhelmed by the level of spice, but that was on purpose. I did it to make people uncomfortable.
You said it to be uncomfortable.
The second book, you get it starts off with the prequel to her current love and runs up to where they meet. And there's very traditional, very in your face spice there. So it's spicy. It has that. It has places that are not spicy. It's fantasy. It has music as magic. I go very hard into the music trope, like hard into the music trope. Um, and yeah, it's all just about having fun.